This is Boxes and Briefs, a podcast with real-life business stories. But we will be asking the hard questions and challenging traditions. So broaden your thinking with fresh perspectives and solve problems for business success.
Hello and welcome to Boxes and Brief. My name is not Lisa. If you've watched our past episodes, you might have recognised me as Kelly. And today I've decided to put Lisa in the hot seat and reflect on how far we've come this year on Boxes and Brief. So, hello Lisa.
Hello Kelly.
Now, Lisa doesn't actually need an introduction because she is a superstar, but I'm going to give you one anyway.
Oh.
So, Lisa is the headhunter for Master Jack, which is the marketing division under Gilligan Shepherd. And she is what I'd like to call a superstar. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think she's an awesome boss, for one thing.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, she's a masterful networker. You've been a part of BNI,
Yes.
and which I've gone along to a couple of times, and I've seen you in action. And on top of that, she's a great storyteller.
Oh,
So, Lisa,
yes.
today we're going to be talking about the podcast.
Yeah.
And we'd like to hear some stories.
Of course.
So why don't you tell us the story of how Boxes and Brief came to be?
Right. Well, as the marketing arm for Gilligan Shepherd, which is an accounting firm, they had a goal of making business in New Zealand better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how the hell do you do that?
I was going to say, what does business better mean? What does it look like?
It means different things to different people. It's all kinds of things. So we brainstormed a bunch of strategies.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was a podcast. So that's kind of how Boxes and Briefs came to be.
Okay.
We did a lot of research. You know, how many podcasts does it take? Do people listen the whole way through? How long should it be? How often should they be? What should we talk about?
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, we set a goal of running the podcast for 1 year,
Yep.
1 episode per week, totaling 52 episodes.
52 episodes. And what episode is this, Lisa?
This is episode number 51.
So nearly there.
We gave the last spot to Bruce Shepherd, who is the co-founder of Gilligan Shepherd. That
Yep.
seemed only right.
Yes, of course.
Yes. And yeah, it's been a bit of a journey. We did the research, we put together a strategy, we purchased all of the equipment, we did a bit of training, voice work, all that kind of thing, which, by the way, I still haven't listened or watched any of the podcasts. I do not like the sound of my own voice.
Yeah.
I do not like seeing photos and videos of myself. It's just one of those things. But when something's got to be done, you do it.
Done.
So when we were trying to figure out who was going to host this thing, it ended up becoming, there's nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got the vision, you just got to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, so I stepped into it, put the big girl pants on, wobbled in the beginning. If you watch the first few episodes, you'll see the wobbles. But yeah, we did it. It got easier. I can confidently just talk.
Yeah, so how would you say your mindset towards it has changed since you started at the beginning of the year till now? Would you say anything major?
Well, I would say that I have got a lot of value out of all of the information and stories and guests that we've had.
Of course. Yeah.
So I can only imagine that if you listen to it, you'll pick up your own bits that you like
Yeah.
or learned.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. And just quickly before we move on, do you want to tell our guests, I don't know if we've mentioned this in an episode before, how did the Boxes and Briefs name
Oh, the name.
come to be?
I mean, it was difficult. We did have a bit of feedback that maybe it wouldn't be such a good idea because when people search for Boxes and Briefs, of course, all things come up in the search
I can
results.
only imagine.
But basically, Boxes and Briefs is because the co-founder, Gilligan Shepherd, Bruce, he's very much a stand-up for what is just and right in a world
100%,
where
yeah.
there's a lot of Goliath corporate companies that will just bulldoze their way over the little guy, and he's definitely someone who stands up for them.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the Boxes part. He'll go in to fight for you, especially if you've been treated unfairly or
Yeah.
unjustly. The Briefs part is basically because we were trying to create something for business owners, and when you think about news stories or information, it's always called briefs.
Yeah.
So we put the two together and it just sounded good. And yeah, we did
Stuck.
toy with the idea of asking our guests what they wore or preferred. But we just thought that might open too many uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, might
Didn't
open a
wanna
bit of a
go
can
there.
of worms.
Yeah. Focus on the strategy. Stick
Yeah,
with the strategy.
We'll stick with that.
Yeah.
Well then, moving on, we're going to talk about some of your favourite episodes. What are the the things that stood out to you. Why did they stand out to you?
Okay. I mean, favourite is too hard.
Yeah, that's a pretty general word
It's
as well.
like asking a parent which child is your favourite one.
For my parents out there, it's me.
You might have one, but you should never say it out loud. No. I did enjoy the coaches a lot.
The coaches?
Yeah.
Can you explain?
So there's different types there's business coaches, life coaches. There's all kinds of different perspectives that they bring to what they've learnt and journeys that they've been on. Sophie Kay, she talked about moving towards pleasure and away from pain, and that's like your human instinct.
Yeah.
So that makes decisions a lot easier. Like if you don't want to do it, that's pain.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't force yourself to do something you don't have to do.
There was Nicole Coyne from Tikamu Consulting.
Yes.
There's no such thing as time management.
That's just so...
It's a word we use all the time, right?
Yeah.
But you cannot manage time.
It just comes and goes.
You've got it doesn't
Well, okay.
come. It just,
it's
it goes. There's no getting it back. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, actually, that's true.
So yeah, there's no such thing as time management. We had Miranda Napton, the president of BNI New Zealand, call in, and the way that she talks about networking is a way that you can do it where it changes your life.
100%.
It's all about relationships,
Yeah.
not swapping business
Yeah.
cards. Monique Bradley was another favourite. We had her on twice because her episodes were quite popular. And one of them was imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And how to be your authentic self and yet be confident and do what you're trying to do and not have all of those kind of doubts creep in. New Zealand and the tall poppy syndrome.
Yes, yeah.
Yes. And then most recently we had John Randalls. And he was talking
very
about
recently.
bottlenecks. And I can empathise, or I can see myself in that situation where for a business to grow you have to get out of your own way.
Yeah, you kind of got to
You know?
release a little bit of that control.
Yeah.
Which I can imagine would be hard for anyone.
Which a lot of it is all risk.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So many stories about risk. And then we had some business basics. So if I was looking to start up a business, I definitely think this is a podcast that I'd go through and listen to all of the ones that sound boring, but there's good reminders in there. We had Debbie Gregory, self-awareness makes you a better leader. How do you get that? Have a
Go watch
listen.
the episode, yeah.
Richard Conway from Pure SEO, he shared his business story, and I've always thought awards were always about ego. And he put a different perspective on it. Said, no, it's a milestone. It's looking back and reflecting on where you've come, and it gives you more confidence for moving forward, especially if you win something.
Yeah.
But just the exercise of going through what have you achieved is brilliant for a business owner.
It's basically reflection, hey?
Yeah. We had Ia. She talked about influencer stories. She had one where she spent $300,000 for one post from Kylie Kardashian. $300K on one post,
It's a lot of money to
Scrooge in
invest.
there. Yeah. But also she made millions. So
Yeah.
there
I think
was
it
so
was
many secrets in there.
It was around her episode. I think I joined. I remember you told me in the interview, we just had her on. And I was like, wait, Ialoo?
We had Tim Dove talking about business names. There's so much in a name for a business. So if you're looking at rebranding, refreshing, or starting, it's definitely one to listen to.
Yeah.
And Bill Bain, who is somebody who works here at Gilligan Shepherd, and he talked about converting your customers into raving fans.
Yes.
Because if they recommend you and if they say you're awesome, of course people are going to trust them. The employee and boss dynamic podcasts or episodes. We had Jackie from Argus.
Yes.
And the thing that stood out, as much as it sounds simple, is if you look after your people, they will look after you. And it's not about how much you're paying them or how much time off they're getting. It really comes down to relationship again. Carly Nicholson, she talked about happy and high-performing employees. Who knew?
Yeah.
That could happen.
It does exist.
Yeah. They're not high-performing and stressed. They're high-performing and happy. We had Simon, who is the guy that we used for our recruitment. He
Yes,
found you.
I'm familiar with Simon.
Yes. And I always thought diversity was just this trend. It was a hot topic
Yeah,
kind
kind
of
of a
thing.
bit of a buzzword.
Yeah, not really, but he kind of put into perspective the real reasons why you should have a diverse workforce. Because if you just clone yourself, you're not going to get
You just
very
got more
far.
of the same.
Yeah. Then we had a bunch of stories. The stories, I have to say, were my favourites.
Yes, this is what I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you. I was like, what have been some of your favourite stories?
stories,
Because we've had a lot.
Katie Ellen Mandy, she has a skincare business and she crafted it from what was around her, both the lessons that she'd learnt in the industry and in retail, as well as the botanics in New Zealand, forming an amazing skincare brand, and how she made it look so classy.
I was going to say, and skincare is tough to crack.
Yeah. Georgia Patton, Board George sunglasses. I think that was quite a few people's favourite one, that one.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
her resilience and her passion, and at only 23, so inspiring.
Yeah, it was quite inspiring for me to be the same age, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what have you done with your life?
I know, it certainly was a bit like, oh, Christ, I need to get my act together a bit.
Yeah, it's inspiring, right?
Yeah.
We had 2 different electrical businesses come in.
Yes, and very interesting
We had
ones.
the guys from No Shock, and they were talking about how they had to lay a bunch of people off to launch again kind of thing, to sort out whatever was going on in the business. And then we had Sam from First Point Electrical, and he had a shocking story, pun intended, of an office manager who sold just under $200,000 from his business.
Yeah, I think that one had to be probably one of, I guess the best word, shocking, or one of the craziest stories we heard on this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, business owners go through the journeys of discovering horrible things, not feeling embarrassed, sharing the stories, being vulnerable with it on this podcast.
Yeah.
And it provides a way for you to learn so you don't make the same mistakes again.
Exactly.
Like, where should your finger be on the pulse? And also recently we had Liz, who's a private investigator.
Yes, this was quite interesting too.
A very cool story. And like, not all business owners, when you start out, you think you're big as best. But no, there's a sweet spot for everybody where you find happiness.
Yeah, good business looks different to everyone.
Yes. So good. So yeah, the stories were the best, I have to say.
Yeah.
When people actually share from the heart what they've gone through and what it feels like.
And that's where the real value is.
Yeah.
So in that case, what were the biggest tips you learned? What were some themes or patterns you saw kind of across all of these amazing business owners, entrepreneurs?
Good question. But how about we break for the jingle?
Sounds good.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Shepherd, the problem solvers in business.
All right, Lisa.
Yes.
I want to know everything you've learnt over these 52 or 51 episodes so far. Lessons, tips, themes and patterns amongst all these business owners and entrepreneurs. Wow. What have you learnt?
I can't possibly share everything.
Well.
You have to listen to it all, basically.
Yes, that's true.
There were 2 things that I think stood out. Business is different for everybody. Duh.
Yeah.
The thing that I've learned is that you've got to look out for what your weaknesses are in order to be successful. So if you don't like networking, here's how you do it. If you don't like numbers, here's how you do it. If you don't like engaging with people or speaking in front of crowds, then here's the things. Like, they're all in these episodes. So it really is focus on your weaknesses, because you'll do your easy stuff easy.
Yeah, it'll come naturally. You
won't
want to
even
do
have
it.
to think about it.
Yeah.
And then the second one is that in nearly every single episode, every business owner, entrepreneur, leader has talked about how to look after themselves.
Yes.
And I know it's so obvious.
And yet it's still something that so many of us struggle with.
Oh, it's just not a priority.
Yes.
It becomes a priority when it gets affected, when you might lose your health, or when you might be on the verge of burnout or something like that.
It's you can't ignore it anymore.
You can't.
You have to
and
face it.
it can't even just be a once a weeker. This is something you need to do something daily.
Yes.
And looking after the brain, the body, the soul, what's good for you is the only way you can be successful.
Yes, and I think kind of the most common one was exercise. I remember that one being pretty prominent.
Yep.
Mindfulness was another big one that we kind of heard a few people talk about.
Yep.
And was there any I missed as well? Those are the 2 big ones I
think
remember.
physical took a lot of care of the mental as well, because when you make time and space for the physical stuff, it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all need to be hitting the gym.
No. No, that's not what I'm saying.
No.
I personally do not like the gym.
No.
Don't enjoy it. But I have found a sport that I love and enjoy, and
Yes.
I spend hours doing that.
You're roller skating.
Yes. And
That's
that
very
gives
cool.
me the brain space as well, because sometimes when you're doing technical stuff, you have to block it all out so that you can focus on what your feet are doing, or you're going to get hurt. Or your feet know what they're doing, so you just get to roll around in this kind of meditative state and think through all of the things that you don't have time to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Very, very cool.
Yes.
So what's the future of Boxes and Briefs? What do we do now?
Ooh. Well, I mean, the future could be anything for Boxes and Briefs, but I do know with all of this equipment that we've got, the experience that we've got, it would be a shame to stop cold turkey.
Yeah.
So Master Jack, that is the marketing arm of Gilligan Shepherd, is looking to do their own podcast.
Ooh.
So I feel like we can be a little bit more deeper, freer, funnier.
Oh, definitely that.
Anything could go. I want to talk about marketing stuff, more stories, of course.
Yes.
I did have this idea for like tipsy marketing talks, where I would just get some of these very cool marketing people that I've had the pleasure of working with.
And that
We'd
we've
have
had
a
on this
wine or two.
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, have a wine or two and just shoot the shit.
Yep.
Have the chats, have the complaints about those customers we don't like, the ones we do like, the pitfalls, the lessons learned, and just bring
Let
it
it
all
out.
together into
Yeah.
a let's have a talk.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, are there any other parting words you'd like to leave for our guests before we wrap it up?
No. Thank you for joining us on the journey. And if this is the first one that you're listening to, definitely go back.
Yes, there's some good lessons in there. Highly
Yeah.
recommend.
Yeah. And you can find it on Apple. You can find it on Spotify.
Yes.
You can find it on YouTube.
So pretty much covering all your bases.
Yes. Prefer you didn't watch the video one because, like I said. But yeah, ultimately they were designed to be 20 minutes long. I think that they started off long and got short by the time we got
Yeah.
towards the end. But yeah, they're supposed to provide value to make business in New Zealand better,
And hopefully we've achieved that.
hopefully.
Well, very good. Well, might see you soon.
Ooh, very soon. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Shepherd, the problem solvers in business.